Look closer at this silk. Does it look soft? Does it look expensive? Do not be fooled. This is not fabric. This is a shroud. Beneath the gold of the Han Palace, there is no glory, there is only blood. 2,000 years ago, a monster was born, a horror so vile. It makes history books bleed. A devoted wife turned into a beast. A beautiful concubine walked into her own grave. It all ends with one terrifying name. The Human Swine. Was Empress Lu born a monster? No. Look closer. Look at the scar on her heart. Lu was once a noble lady. She lowered her head. She married Lu Beng. And who was he? A peasant? A nobody. A scoundrel. She gave him everything. She swallowed her pride. She bled for him. She paved his road to the throne with her own youth. But history is brutal. During the great retreat from Pencheng, the enemy was chasing them. The carriage was too heavy. The horses were too slow. So what did Lu Beng do? He looked at his children. They were burdens. He kicked them out. He pushed his own flesh and blood into the mud. He chose his life. He left them to die. He escaped. But Lu stayed. For 2 years, she was a hostage, a prisoner in a cage of wolves. Let me tell you about the true horror of those 2 years. It was not just hunger, it was cruelty. The enemy king Xiangyu dragged Lu Beng's own father to a giant cauldron. He threatened to boil the old man alive. He shouted to Liu Bang, surrender or I cook your father. And what did Lu Beng reply? He laughed. He said, if you make a soup out of him, send me a bowl. Lu stood there, watching. She realized her husband was not a man. He was a monster. In that moment, something inside her broke. She ate scraps, meant for dogs. She slept on cold earth, in that cold cell. The innocent wife died. Her tenderness was strangled. Her heart turned to ice. Her soul turned to steel. She survived. But she did not come back as a wife. She came back as a survivor. When peace finally came, Lu Beng became emperor. What did Lu get? One night, the empress sat alone. She faced the bronze mirror. What did she see? Not a queen. She saw a ruin. Rough skin. Deep cuts of time near her eyes. Gray hair like dead grass. Is this the price of power? She gave him an empire. She gave him her youth. She stood by him when he was nothing. And what did she get in return? Nothing. Where was the emperor? He was drunk. He was lost in the soft arms of young dancers. Then came Lady Qi. Look at the contrast. Empress Lu, hardened by war, scarred by prison. Lady Qi, young, fresh, a seductive dancer who stole the emperor's soul. The emperor took Qi everywhere. He left his wife to rot in the freezing shadows of the back palace. Listen, do you hear that? Music, laughter, moans of pleasure drifting from Qi's chambers. Every sound was a knife, twisting, turning in the empress's gut. She did not sleep. She listened, and she hated. But Lady Qi was too naive. She relied on the emperor's love. She did not understand the game. She thought affection was power. She was wrong. Empress Lu did not just sit on a throne. She spent years building a fortress. Her brothers were generals. Her allies were the killers and strategists who built the Han Dynasty. She was the root of the Han tree. Lady Qi was just a flower, and flowers die in winter. Yet Lady Qi committed the ultimate taboo. Night after night, she cried on the emperor's pillow. She demanded he depose the crown prince. She wanted to put her own son, Prince Ruyi, on the throne. She was playing with fire. If Lu loses that title, she dies. The emperor stops breathing. Her entire clan follows him to the grave. Make no mistake, this was not a love triangle. This was war. A death match, kill or be killed. Lady Qi cried for love. But Lu heard a threat. She did not scream. She sat in the dark. She sharpened her knife, and she waited. Then, the moment of fate arrived. 195 BC. The death bell rang. Emperor Lu Beng died. The only wall protecting Lady Qi crumbled. In that instant, the scales of power tipped brutally. Empress Lu was now the Empress Dowager. She held the power of life and death. She shed no tears for her husband. She turned her eyes to the trembling prey. The hunt began. The first order was issued. Throw Lady Qi into the Eternal Lane. What is the Eternal Lane? It is a long, dark alley deep in the palace, where the sun never shines. Damp, rat-infested, a prison for forgotten souls, Lady Qi was dragged into the darkness. The order came down. Bring the razor. Her long, silky hair, shaved clean, gone. In ancient times, hair was dignity. Hair was life now. She was nothing. Cold iron. Snap. A heavy collar locked around her neck. Take off the silk. Put on the red robes of a convict. She was no longer a lady. She was cattle. The hands that once poured wine now gripped a heavy stone. Thump. She pounded the rice. Thump. She pounded her dignity. Thump. The stone did not just crush the grain. It crushed her spirit. Rats bit her feet. Roaches crawled on the walls. Look at her now. Beauty is dust. Power is the only truth. But in this living hell, Lady Qi made a second fatal mistake. A deadly mistake. She sang a song of blood and tears. Listen to her words. My son is a king. I am a slave. He rules in Zhao. I pound rice with death. She sang to the walls. She sang to vent her pain. But she forgot one thing. The walls had ears. The song reached Empress Lu. She didn't feel pity. She felt a cold threat. She realized a terrifying truth. Lady Qi had not given up. She was using her voice to call for help. As long as Prince Ruyi was alive, as long as he commanded an army, Empress Lu could not sleep. Lu closed her eyes. Her nails dug into her palm until blood dripped. Then she smiled. Not a happy smile. A smile of a predator. To kill the weed, you must burn the root. To destroy the mother, you must butcher her hope. Her son. Empress Lu sat on her throne. She watched the prey arrive. A 12-year-old boy, walking straight into the dragon's mouth. Once the boy is dead, the last string of sanity in Lady Qi will snap, and then Lu will not just kill her. No, death is too easy. She will create a masterpiece of horror, the Human Swine. Imagine walking into a slaughterhouse disguised as a golden palace. That was the life of Prince Ruyi. He was not a guest in Chang'an. He was bait. A 12-year-old boy served on a silver platter to the most ruthless predator in history, Empress Lu. But how do you survive when your own stepmother wants to eat you alive? Only one barrier stood between the boy and the butcher's knife. Emperor Hui. He knew that his mother's smile was just a sheath for her dagger, so he became a human shield. He moved Ruyi into his own imperial bedroom. He refused to blink. Every meal was tested for poison. Every shadow was checked for assassins. For months, the emperor became a living wall. Inside the room there was a fleeting illusion of safety, a memory of archery practice, a clumsy arrow, a shared laugh between brothers. In those moments they were not pawns. They were family. Hui looked at the boy's fragile smile. He swore that as long as he breathed, no harm would come to him. But oaths are fragile things in the Han Palace. Then came the fog, a white mist so thick it could hide a murder. That morning the emperor made a fatal calculation. He sat on the edge of the bed. He looked at the sleeping boy, so peaceful, so safe. Outside the winter air was biting. Why wake him? Hui walked to the window. The courtyard was filled with royal guards, armor gleaming in the mist. He told himself that he was the emperor, that his power was absolute. Surely a few hours apart would be harmless. That single thought was the key that unlocked the door to hell. He picked up his bow. He stepped into the mist. He did not know it, but he was walking away from his brother for the last time. The moment the door clicked shut, the shadows began to move. Empress Lu had waited months for this 1 second of negligence. A ghost stepped from the dark. In his hands was a cup of warm wine. It smelled like peaches and honey, a sweet treat for a cold morning. Or was it? Under the sugar lay the crane's red crown, the deadliest poison in the empire. 1 sip to seal the throat, 2 sips to melt the organs. The eunuch knelt. He offered the cup of death with a smile. The emperor sent this to keep you warm. Drink. Ruyi opened his eyes. He saw the kind face. He smelled the sweet wine. He trusted the uniform. He sat up. He reached out. He took the cup. Liquid fire. That was the taste of betrayal. It did not warm him. It incinerated him from the inside out. Ruyi dropped the cup. He clawed at his neck. His vocal cords fused shut. He tried to scream a name. Hui. But the name died in his throat. Only silence came out. His veins bulged black against his skin. His face turned purple. He looked at the door, praying for the shield to return, but the door stayed shut. The eunuch just stood there, watching, smiling. Then the boy convulsed, once, twice, and collapsed into the eternal stillness. When the sun burned through the fog, Emperor Hui returned with a branch of spring blossoms, a heaf of life, but death had arrived first. He walked in with a smile, but the smile died instantly. He saw the purple face, the staring eyes. The blossoms crashed to the floor, shattered like his soul. The smell of peaches filled the room. It was the sickly sweet scent of his mother's palace. He fell to his knees. He grabbed the cold body. He shook it. He screamed until his voice broke, but no amount of screaming could bring back the dead. He stared at the empty cup. The truth hit him harder than the loss. He did not just leave the room. He signed the death warrant. The fortress walls were high, but the enemy was already inside. Miles away, Empress Lu sat in silence. Snip, her silver scissors cut a dead branch from her bonsai. The weed is pulled, she whispered. But for the Emperor's death was too easy, too merciful. She did not just want to kill her rivals. She wanted to create art, an art made of flesh and blood. She turned her gaze to the dungeon where Lady Qi was waiting, and she smiled. The era of the human swine has begun. White banners flew for the dead prince, but inside the Empress's chambers, the mood was red. She did not cry. She worked deep in the dungeon. She did not just kill. She sculpted. Screams echoed through the eternal lane for days, then stopped. Not peace, but completion. The Empress wiped her blade. She smiled. Her masterpiece was finally breathing. A summons arrived for Emperor Hui. "Come see my guest." The Emperor froze. His mother never had guests, only victims. But he was the son of heaven. He obeyed. He stepped into the sunlight. He did not know it then, but that was the last time he would ever feel warm. The sun was about to turn cold forever. Empress Lu was waiting. She smiled like a mother welcoming a child. "Come, my son. You have been sad for too long. I have found a rare creature. I want you to see it." She led him away from the flowers. Down they went, deeper into the palace bowels, past the servants, into the dark, the absolute filth. The air grew heavy. The light died. Then it hit him. Not a sight, but a smell. It was not the smell of death. It was worse. It was the smell of old blood mixed with human waste. The sweet, metallic scent of suffering. They stopped at the royal pigsty. Hui looked into the pit. Shadows moved in the muck. A creature rolled in the filth. It had pink skin. It made wet noises. His brain tried to protect him. "Is that a pigno?" He leaned closer. The smell hit him first. Then the sight ripped his soul apart. That was no animal. He looked for arms, stay where he gone. Shadows where limbs used to be. He looked for legs. Missing. She could not walk. She could only roll. Rolled in her own waste like a worm. He looked for a face. Found hell. Where eyes used to shine, there was only darkness. The light was stolen forever. Where ears used to listen to music, there were only scars. Smoke had taken her hearing. She opened her mouth to beg, but the tongue was silenced. Gone. Only a wet gurgle escaped. A sound of pure liquid pain. Hui grabbed the rails. His stomach turned inside out. He screamed at the shadows. "What is that thing?" The eunuch stepped forward. His voice was dead calm. "Look closely, Your Majesty. That is not a thing. That is Lady Qi, the woman you tried to save." Silence crashed down. The beautiful dancer. His father's love. The mother of his brother. Reduced to this. A broken doll discarded in the mud. He looked at Empress Lu. She smiled. She looked at the human swine, like a painter looks at a masterpiece. Pure pride. Satisfaction. Hui screamed. A sound of pure madness. He collapsed into the dirt. He vomited until he was empty. The boy who tried to save his brother died in that pigsty. He was carried back to his chambers. But the emperor never truly woke up. The emperor died that day. Only his body remained. For 7 years he was a ghost on the throne. Let me tell you about those 7 years. They were a slow suicide. Ministers brought scrolls to his chambers. Urgent matters of state. Famines, floods, laws. Hui would look at them with dead eyes. He would pour wine over the royal decrees and laugh. Why have laws? He screamed at his generals. Why have justice? If a mother can turn a human into a pig, does anything matter anymore? He locked himself in the harem. He drank wine to drown the memory. But alcohol could not wash away the image. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the darkness staring back at him. Every time silence fell, he heard the gurgling from the pit. He lived in terror of his own mother. He sent one final message, a message that marked the end of his reign. This is not the work of a human being. I am your son, but I can no longer govern a world where you exist. With the emperor broken, Empress Lu unleashed her true ambition. The mask fell off. She did not just rule, say, Burgeth. The Liu clan, the family of her husband, became her prey. She saw enemies in every shadow. 3 different princes of Zhao were murdered under her watch, starved to death behind locked doors, poisoned at banquets, driven to suicide by fear. She stripped the Louis family of their titles. In their place, she raised her own blood, the Liu clan. Her brothers became kings. Her nephews became generals. The court was filled with men named Liu. She broke the sacred white horse oath of the high ancestor. Only a Liu can be king. She didn't care. She was the dragon. She held absolute power. She sat on the throne alone, the queen of a graveyard. But silence did not last. Power built on blood demands a price. 180 BC. 8 years after the human swine incident, the empress returned from a ritual. Suddenly, the wind stopped. A beast materialized from the mist. Not a dog. A phantom of Asia smoke with burning eyes. It lunged. It bit deep into her underarm. It did not bleed, but the pain was infinite. The soothsayers trembled. That was no beast. That was the ghost of Prince Ruyi. The human swine had sent her son to fetch the empress to hell. The phantom dog vanished into the mist. Yet the agony remained. It burned beneath her armpit. Not a wound of flesh, but a mark of doom. Empress Lu stared at her skin. Unbroken, clean, but burning like fire. This was no illness. It was a death sentence, sent from hell. She retreated to her chambers, but the walls began to close in. Can you imagine the terror of the most powerful woman in China? Terrified of the dark. Look at the shadows. Do you see the poisoned Prince Ruyi? Listen closely. Can you hear the gurgling blood of Lady Qi? The ghosts had come to collect their debt. She knew her time was up. But even on her deathbed, she was a tactician. She did not pray for forgiveness. She plotted for survival. She summoned her nephews, Lu Chan and Lu Lu, the men she had raised to power. They knelt by her bed. They were not warriors. They were pampered princes, wearing general's armor. She grabbed their hands with a dying grip. Listen to me, she rasped. When I die, the wolves will come. The generals hate us. The ministers hate us. Do not leave the palace. Do not mourn me. Grip the sword tight, old the army, or the Liu clan will destroy you all. 180 BC. The empress took her last breath. Silence fell over Chang'an. But do not be fooled by the quiet. She believed her death secured her family's future. She was wrong. Her last heartbeat was not an ending. It was the signal for a massacre. The Liu clan took control. They wore the imperial robes. They held the seals. They thought they were the masters of the world. Lu Chan paraded through the streets, confident in his power, but he did not see the knives sharpening in the shadows. The old wolves were waking up. Gren, Commandant, Zhou, Chancellor Chunping, the men who built the dynasty with Lu Bang, they had been hiding, waiting, surviving the Empress's reign of terror. Now, the shield was gone. The monster was dead. It was time to hunt. The plan was dangerous. They had to take back the Northern Army, the strongest military force in the capital. But the army was commanded by a Lu general. Zhou walked into the army camp. He was unarmed. He was old, but he walked with the weight of a mountain. He stood on the commander's platform. Thousands of soldiers looked up at him. The air was thick, heavy. You could smell the sweat and the fear. The generals of the Liu clan stood on the sidelines, hands hovering over their swords. One wrong word, and blood would flow. Zhou tore opened his robe. He bared his right arm. He did not scream. He spoke with the voice of history. I speak for the high ancestor. I speak for the true blood of Luyo. He looked into the eyes of the soldiers. The Liu clan has stolen the throne. Today, we choose. If you stand with the Liu family, bare your right arm. If you stand with the Liu family, bare your left arm. Silence. Absolute, terrifying silence. For a heartbeat, no one moved. The wind stopped. The fate of the Han Dynasty hung in the balance. The Lu generals smirked, thinking the soldiers were loyal to them. Then, a movement. A young soldier in the front row slowly rolled up his left sleeve. He looked at Zhou Biao. He looked at his comrades. Then another, then 10 more. A rustle of fabric swept across the field. Louder than thunder, 1,000 left arms were bared at once. A sea of bare skin. The Northern Army had spoken. They turned their backs on the user. They chose the true blood. So Hubo smiled. The hunt was on. He raised his hand. Capture them. Inside the palace, Luchan and Lulu were waiting for news. They expected a messenger of victory. Instead, they heard the sound of marching boots. Not their boots. The gates of the palace flew open. But it was not a parade. It was a cleansing. The realization hit the Lu clan like a tidal wave. Their guards surrendered. Their servants fled. The golden cages turned into iron prisons. Panic took over. The men who feasted on power now scrambled like rats in a burning house. Generals dragged them from their silk beds. Soldiers silenced them in the cold streets. The purge was absolute, brutal, complete. They hunted down everyone with the surname Lu. Men, women, children, old and young. The Empress wanted a dynasty that would last 10,000 years. Instead, she bought them a mass grave. Not a single root remained. The family that once feasted on power was now nothing but food for the crows. When the screaming stopped, the throne was empty. The generals cleansed the capital. They looked north. They found a forgotten prince, Lu Heng, a man of kindness, a man of peace. He ascended the throne as Emperor Hui. The nightmare was over. The dark clouds of the eternal lane lifted. The torture chambers were sealed. The golden age of Han began. But what of Empress Lu? She lies in a tomb somewhere in the dust of history. But her legacy is not gold. It is not glory. It is the human swine. She destroyed a rival to protect her son. But she drove her son to the grave. She slaughtered a clan to protect her family. But her cruelty led to their extinction. She thought she was building a fortress. But she was digging a pit. History remembers. It remembers the screams in the dungeon. It remembers the wine in the jade cup. It remembers the mother who became a monster. Confucius was right. Before you embark on a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. One for your enemy, and one for yourself.